Hey everyone, welcome. It's good to see you. So tonight we're going to talk about when family disagrees on infrastructure. We're talking about a family affair here, and when family does not agree in business, it can get ugly with a capital U. And unfortunately, I find myself in the middle of these situations more than I actually want to be. But this is what happens. So if you are watching this, you know that I talk often about the VIPER method, and we're just going to get right into that. The VIPER method is what I've written in my book, The Time Wealth, The Advantage. And if you have not been exposed to that, you are going to get exposed to it right now. So the VIPER method is an acronym for vision, infrastructure, process, execution, and reporting. And this is all in the book, The Time Wealth, The Advantage. If you would like a copy of The Time Wealth, The Advantage, if you'd like a signed copy, and you'd like me to send it to you in domestic United States, I can do that. And I'm going to throw in some coaching with that as well. I'll tell you how to get that at the end. But the thing that we're going to really be talking about tonight is kind of related to infrastructure and this conversation that I got into with this very upset young woman. And I'm changing the details of this a little bit just because she was at her wit's end and she really didn't know what to do. And here was the problem. The problem was she and her brother were trying to run this business, and that was left to them both by their parents. Their parents are aging. They've got this auto repair shop. Neither one of them knows how to repair cars. That's not what their skill set is, but they do have mechanics that handle this thing. And it's a franchise, but they kind of run it as an independent franchise. So the way that it works, I understand how that is. So they've got much of the infrastructure built out. So when we're talking about the VIPER method, we're talking about vision, right? And vision has those two components, right? Where they want to go from a personal perspective and where they want to go from a business perspective. And again, what is the main element? It's always around the personal vision. From personal vision should be fed and should dictate everything, including the business vision, how the infrastructure is set up, what are the processes, how things are executed. And of course, the reporting makes sure that all this stuff is working the way it's supposed to work. And if it doesn't, then you just need to adjust the inputs. You need to adjust the activities and the things that are being done. So all of that serves the four core functions of business. The four core functions are lead generation, sales, operations, and accounting. Those are four functions that have to exist in every business. So this young lady, she was at her wit's end. She does not have a business background. She really was struggling. And as she fought back tears, she was explaining to me that basically because she was female, she was really not expected to be active in this business, even though the brother has probably just as much knowledge, if not less, than she does around automobiles and the repair of automobiles. But because she is a girl, she was not expected to have an equal amount of share of the profits of the business, right? So it was interesting because she's sounds like doing a lot of the work, but not getting paid her equal share. So you might be thinking, well, how does this come down to an infrastructure problem? Well, the infrastructure of the business was pretty much set up by the franchise. So the infrastructure, there's lots of infrastructure that's there, but there are things that are missing. And now when we're thinking about infrastructure, so let's go back to the vision. The vision includes personal vision and business vision. Let me get myself get this slide down here for just a second. So when you're thinking about vision, you're thinking about personal vision and business vision. When you're thinking about the personal vision is really what is the whole reason you get out of bed in the morning, right? It's the reason you're doing this thing. Like the pot of the gold at the end of the rainbow for you is your personal vision. So when you think about this, and you're thinking about this in the context of maybe like your 100th birthday speech, or you can be thinking about it in the context of your life philosophy, which was really interesting. I got reading into a book. It was called Grit by Angela Duckworth, and she interviewed Pete Carroll, who was at the time the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. I think he might still be. I don't know that. Someone who's watching this can tell me. I don't watch football like I used to anymore. But a really interesting guy, and he talked about having this life philosophy, and it was very similar to what I would call a personal vision. And this personal vision, really, when you're really clear on that, that's when you can get really clear on your business vision. And the business vision, as you may know, is defined by the 3 C's: core purpose, core values, and client avatar. So the core purpose of the business is specifically what business that you're in and what problems do you solve. The core purpose, or I'm sorry, that's the core purpose. The core values of the business are really what's important to you about this business. And again, that's why it's important that you look at your own core values when you're defining the business core values, because you don't want to create a business that's not in alignment with who you are. That stands to reason. So when you're looking at the client avatar, which is the 3rd C of the business vision, that's when you're really defining who it is the business serves, right? Who is the business? What are the problems that you solve, and who do you solve those problems for? And that's when you think about these avatar, or this avatar, in the context of geographic, where they are; demographics, who they are and who they represent; and then, and how they buy. That's the psychographics. The psychographics is how they buy, how they think. You think of them in terms of attitudes, you think of them in terms of lifestyles, you think of in terms of their interests and their goals. So that's the business vision. So all of that has to be in alignment with the infrastructure. So when this young girl called me, and she's, again, fighting back tears, she's so frustrated, she doesn't know what to do. And she's the one who's answering the phone, setting up all this stuff. And the brother is really not doing much at all. In fact, the brother doesn't even show up to this repair shop, where she's showing up every day, answering the phones, but yet he feels like he is due 70% of the proceeds of the profits, and she is only supposed to get 30%. So you can see where this becomes a problem. And this is a problem because she's trying to set up infrastructure for the business that's in alignment, with not so much her personal vision. She really wasn't exposed to personal vision until I started talking about it. But really, I was like, is this really what you want to do for a living? Now, I will say her background, she's well educated. She has a bachelor's degree in humanities. I'm not going to try to get too specific on it, but it's more social sciences than anything. So it's not really like she even has a business background, but she's smart, she's educated, and she knows how to do good business. I mean, she's doing the best she can, but because the brother is a male and it's somewhat of a cultural thing too, it's, there seems to be this misalignment of core values. So this is why she's trying to put in infrastructure in place so she doesn't have to work as much, so she can automate a lot of the stuff that she's doing, but the brother doesn't want to pay for it. He doesn't want to pay for these infrastructure improvements. So here comes the problem. Is this really an infrastructure problem? It really isn't. It's not as much as an infrastructure problem as it's a misalignment with core values. And I see this often in business when there are 2 competing partners, and one partner almost invariably feels like they are doing more than the other, or, well, I'm the money guy and they do all the work, and the one who's doing all the hustling eventually starts to feel a little salty about that. Well, in this case, the family the parents kind of dumped this auto repair shop on the son and daughter and kind of let them battle it out. So really, this isn't a problem of infrastructure as much as it's a problem with a misalignment of core values. And this is something, again, the biggest issue I see with family business comes to core values, because they may have a similar set of core values inside the family, but the core values inside the business are not the core values that are outside the business. They may value something. They may have completely different mindsets on money. They may have completely different mindsets when it comes to how to make decisions, hiring and firing, who they're going to hire, who they're going to let go, who are they going to reprimand, what vendors are they going to use. These are all issues surrounding core values. So this got a little bit deeper when when she was starting to tell me, well, the brother was wanting to take a loan out against the business, and there was no reason to. There's no reason to take. It's not like they were looking for expansion. It's not like they were growing much. They weren't growing broke or anything like that. They were taking a reasonable amount of salary, but they were not leaving any cash inside the business. All the cash was being sucked out every single month. So the brother, seeing this cash cow, is now starting to. I think there's a mosquito in here. It's driving me nuts. So the issue was the brother wanted to get a loan against the business, which there wasn't much in terms of. I mean, there were some receivables, but generally it's kind of a cash business. But it did make a substantial amount of money each month. I think from a profit perspective, it was like somewhere around 150 to 175,000 per month was being brought out of the business. The brother, by the way, getting 70% of that, and then she was getting 30% of that, even though she was doing probably closer to 80% of the work. Again, this is where this misalignment of core values is coming in. So she's basically being treated like an employee, and he's getting treated like an owner. He's not showing up. She's going in there every single day, doing the work, doing the work after hours, and there's really no equity in this at all, or it's not equitable at all. Let me just say it that way. So of course, then he's trying to take a loan out against the future receivables, and then it's only going to put the business at risk. So you can see the conundrum here. And this is something that you really have to be careful about in family business. And if you are in a family business right now, I really can't tell you how important it is for you to define the company core values inside the company. Meaning, how are you going to define how you're going to make decisions? What are hireable and fireable offenses? And generally, the way that I look at them, I think that 5 is kind of the magic number when it comes to core values. If you have a list of like 14 core values, they start to get watered down. They start to overlap each other. They start to get less and less meaningful. But the reason I like 5 is because you can have 5 main headings, if you will, like 5 headlines, and then sub definitions underneath each one of those 5 headlines. So, for example, within Strategic Boardroom, one of my favorite core values is creating legends. And well, I like to create legends in the minds of other people. So if I'm talking about someone, it's like bragging about someone or positive gossip around someone. So that to me is there's several sub definitions under the creating legends core value, right? And that's important, because if someone was doing something or started speaking negatively about someone else in my organization, I could pull them aside and have a very clinical conversation with them, not emotional, but a clinical conversation to say, hey man, you've been kind of ragging on so-and-so. What's up with that? That's a violation of a core value around creating legends. What's up with that? Right? And well, you don't understand. They're maybe mad, this and that, whatever. Okay, but you can now have a very clinical, non-emotional conversation around a core value or a violation of core value, of a core value, and then just move on with it. Say, look, this behavior is not going to be acceptable, and you can hold people to that standard, regardless if they are an employee, regardless if they're a family member, regardless if they're a vendor, and even if they're a customer. You can hold them accountable to those core values. So this is not easy to do by yourself. In fact, I've worked with several companies that have done that before. If this is something you'd like me to work with you on, you can reach out. Just head to strategicboardroom.com and reach out to me that way, or on social media. It's probably easiest if you're seeing this on social media, because this is something that really it takes time. And anytime I have worked with someone on a set of core values, it took me 2 full days of working with this with one couple. And even then, there was still some stuff that had to be done after the fact, because it does take time. And when you're thinking about violations of a core value, like especially if you've ever lost a friend to, like just to a life event where they started to head off of like they were heading off the reservation and they were heading down a path that you couldn't follow. That's because that was a violation of a core value. And it's a value that means so much to you that will get you up out of your chair and cause you to act. That's how you know it's a core value, not just a value that's, that it's like, oh yeah, I think that's important to me, but I really don't think it's enough for me to get out of my chair. Core value is enough for you to get out of your chair and take action. That's how you know it's a core value. So I think that was the biggest issue. And it was, again, I unfortunately, the brother was definitely not willing to get on a conversation, get on a call with me, because that would have, again, you can tell that she was more about accountability and he was absolutely not about accountability, because he just kind of wanted to go and spend all of his money on cars and boats and things like that. And I get it. I understand. Right. But unfortunately, when she had a question that she thought was related to infrastructure, it was actually an issue more related around core values and a misalignment there. So that's all I have. If you are interested in joining me and my tribe in the Facebook community, if that is of your ilk, you can head over to, am I pointing right? Nope. This way. If you head over to the Time Wealthy Advantage, the link is in the description. Just again, if you are a business owner type and you would like to be in the community, you are more than welcome to join us. Again, just don't be a jerk. No jerks allowed. Also, if you are interested in the Time Wealthy Advantage book bundle, their link is also in the description. And those 4 guides that are included there, they include lead generation, they include sales. There's one around accounting, and then there is one related to the strategic one sheets. And those are all additional guides which help you really just kind of supplement the Time Wealthy Advantage. So additional stuff there to help you out in your journey in business. And if you buy it through here, you will also get a 45-minute coaching session with me. So that is all I have. Thanks for joining me. Have a great rest of your day. See you guys next time.